Hi, and welcome back to U.S. History with me, Mr. Snyder, and today we are going to continue our delving into topic 4 by talking about the Progressive Era and how it related to minorities, which wasn't exactly the same as how it related to whites. So your learning targets today are to talk about progressives' attitudes toward minority rights, talk about the African Americans in particular, and then other minority groups and the steps that they took to demand their rights. So let's break it down and kind of look at the fact that most progressives are white Protestants. And so they're, through the social gospel movement and other ways of doing this, they are going through reforms, and they're taking these reforms and putting a Christian base to it, like these settlement houses, and we're trying to Americanize immigrants and minorities and make them more white and adapt to white culture. And we're taking these minorities and immigrants and pushing them to abandon their own cultures and follow the Protestant way of life. Many progressives, even though they try to help others, are still racists and they feel that whites are more fit to lead society. They even go so far as to use the scientific method and try to develop theories about dark skin and its correlation with intelligence, which is completely bunk science. But they use this science to justify segregation and voting laws. And if Plessy versus Ferguson has any lasting impact throughout the South, remember that was the thing that said Jim Crow laws, separate but equal, are legal. Plessy versus Ferguson makes segregation the norm across the nation, whether it is by law or by custom. So these African Americans are trying to decide what we're going to do. And to review, Webb Du Bois's view was that we need rights right now, and Booker T. Washington's view was we need to adapt ourselves to segregation and accommodate ourselves to it. Which view is correct? Which way do we go? African Americans are divided, but in 1905, Du Bois and other black leaders get together and form the Niagara Movement, and they're named that because they had to actually go into Canada to meet across the border from New York because they weren't allowed into any of the hotels in the New York side. So the Niagara Movement is formed, which officially denounces Washington's idea of gradual progress and accommodation towards segregation and waiting for equality. They want equality now. A couple of years later, riots break out and people are murdered in Springfield, Illinois, which is Abraham Lincoln's hometown. So outrage over this leads leaders of the Niagara Movement to form the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, or today it's just known as the NAACP, since colored people isn't really a politically correct term anymore. Progressive leaders from both sides, white and black, join the NAACP, and their strategy throughout this next century is going to be to use the courts to challenge unfair laws. And they're going to be behind one of the biggest cases in the 1950s, known as the Brown as the Board of Education case, which eventually overturns segregation in education. More organizations. One that is founded is the Urban League, and this focuses on helping poor workers. And the difference between the Urban League and the NAACP is that the NAACP focuses on helping middle-class blacks who have been discriminated against in the courts. The Urban League is more of a relief organization, helping families to buy clothes, get their children into school, helping poor, unskilled blacks find jobs. Most cities today, most larger cities that have a large black population, like Fort Wayne, have an urban league in order to defend blacks and help them in the same way that they helped them once they were founded. Other groups during this time are also facing discrimination. Jews have a specific name for their discrimination, and it's known as anti-Semitism, and that just means the hatred of Jews. And in 1913, in order to protect themselves from the hatred of Jews, the Anti-Defamation League is formed to protect Jews against physical attacks due to their religion and their race. Mexican Americans fighting back in the West against discrimination form mutualistas. And mutualistas are groups that give out loans and provide legal assistance for Mexicans who can't afford legal assistance in the courts. Maybe they're getting their land taken away from them. Mutualistas help these people out. So Native Americans during this time are still facing conditions of poverty due to the Dawes Act that was passed, and the system of land that they have isn't working out. So in order to give them a leg up, the American Indian Citizenship Act of 1924 is passed, which grants citizenship to all indigenous peoples. During the time when the 14th Amendment was passed, it was kind of inferred that it did not include American Indians who were born in America. They are not allowed to be citizens. Now this makes everyone a citizen. It is meant to recognize the thousands of Indians who served during World War I, but it indirectly also assimilates Indians further into white American culture. And then Asian Americans during this time will eventually form the Japanese American Citizens League, but right now they are fighting against their land being taken away, and they're fighting against laws that are taking away their citizenship. So that's all I have for you today. If you want to go ahead and fill out those learning targets and bring your questions back to class, we will talk more about it there. Have a great day. Bye-bye.